Welcome to this class on portfolio theory continuation. If you check the previous class, we treated introduction to portfolio theory. In this class, we'll be looking at return on single asset portfolio. Return on single asset portfolio. So how do we compute return on single asset portfolio? We can use three techniques. So technique number one is holding period, which is capital gain plus dividend yield. Technique number two, we use probability method, which talks about expected return. And number three is historical method, where we look at average. All right. So we start. When we say holding period has to do with the what you gain while holding the company stock. To get this done, we say the price of year one minus price of year zero over price of year zero, right? And then we add dividend per share to this numerator. So this P1 means new price. The P0 means old price. YDPS means dividend per share. So this will give us the required return for these assets, for this stock. Okay, so this computation can also be seen as P1 minus P0 over P0 plus dividend per share over P0. Okay, where this particular one is called capital gain yield. Capital gain yield. And then this particular one is called dividend yield. So, which therefore means return on assets, capital gain yield plus dividend yield. So, return on assets using holding period is a capital gain yield plus dividend yield. All right. So, let's look at a practical question. Mama PLC's stock is currently selling for 30 naira. It has the following prospects for the next year. There is a possible return of 35 naira, 40 naira, and 45. But these returns are not certain, and that is why they are subject to probability. So, apart from the increase in the price of the shares, of course, it is also subject to payment of dividend. That means we are looking at the fact that the price of the shares may go to 35 naira, may go to 40 naira, or 45 naira. So if it goes to 35, we are paying 1 naira dividend. If it goes to 40, we are paying 1 naira dividend. And if it goes to 45 naira, of course, Mama PLC is going to pay 2 naira dividend. But all these are subject to probability. But there is 50% chance that the price will go to 40 naira. So on this note, we want to compute the return on Mama PLC stock. So what do? We calculate the return like new minus old over old, which is trend. Of course, for scenario one, we say new price, which is 35 naira minus 30 naira old price plus what? Dividend of 1 naira. Everything divided by old price of 30 naira. So this gives what? 20%. So for scenario two, we have 40 minus 30 plus 1 naira dividend over 30. So that gives 36.7%. So we also have remember figure 3, 45 minus 30 plus 1 divided by 30. Sorry, this is 2 naira dividend. So plus 2 naira dividend, as we can see it here. So that gives us 56.67%. All right. So these are probable returns that is subject to probability. So the probability is we have 0.25, 0.5, 0.25. So probability times the return, right? So this times this gives us 5. 0.5% times this gives us 18.4, and this gives us 0.25 times 56.67 gives us 14.2. So addition of these three will give us 37.6%. So when we examine the probability of 50%, we can see that 50% of this is 56.7. So far, this 50% probability is this. That means any result we get will definitely be close to the 50% result. This is how to compute return using holding period. And what we do here is to use capital gain yield plus dividend yield, just that the formula is combined rather than being split. All right, so this is this is using holding period. So the next one, we want to use another technique, which is probability technique. So we call this expected return. So expected return involves return on A times the probability of A plus return of B times the probability of B, so plus return of N times the probability of N. So how does this go? Let us check and find out. So the probability distribution of the return on an investment in Zenith PLC equity stock is as follows: possible returns and probability. So let us calculate the return on Zenith PLC equity stock. So to calculate the return, we have 4 times 0.1. Of course, the addition of probability must give us 1. So if we add all these probabilities together, they will give us 1. All right, so which is 100%. So 4 times 0.1 plus 7 times 0.2 plus 11 times 0.3 plus 13 times 0.3 plus 16 times 0.3. So when we add everything together, it gives us 10.6%. 10.6%. All right, because this will give us, of course, 0.4 plus 1.4 plus 3.3 plus this times this gives us 3.9 plus 1.6, and then we arrive at 10.6%. So this is the use of probability technique. All right, so we want to also examine the use of historical average, and that is summation x divided by n. So what do? The return of the last 3 years in the banking sector of Nigeria's stock market is provided below. Year 2021, 15% return, 2022 is 18% return, and 2023 is 12% return. So this represents our x. The return represents our x. So what do we do next? The n represents the number of years. So here we have n to be 3, and then addition of x is 15 plus 18 plus 12, which gives us 45. So the return on banking sector will be 45 divided by 3. Right? So which is the summation x. So what do? We say 45 divided by 3, and that gives 15%. So this is the computation of return on single asset portfolio using historical average. So the next is so our next class, we'll be looking at assumptions of portfolio theory while we examine portfolio return. So this portfolio return is computed as RP, which is a weight of A times the return of A plus weight of B times the return of B to plus weight of n times the return of n. This will be treated in the next video, which is linked to this. Thank you. Endeavor to subscribe, like, and share. I'll meet you in the next class. Thank you.